Hi, I'm Jim Bush, and I'm following God out of Christianity and returning to the teaching of the Torah. 2 years ago, my wife, Leora, and I decided to make the decision not to celebrate Christmas. So one of the things we no longer do is put up a Christmas tree. We don't buy gifts and spend a lot of money. What do we do now that we've left Christmas? We are following God out of Christmas. What does that mean? Why follow God out of Christmas when Christmas seemed to be such a joyful occasion and such a fun time with the family? Now that we no longer celebrate it, we are looked at as, wow, you guys are a bunch of weirdos. You don't celebrate Christmas, you don't have any joy, you don't have any fun. I would say just the opposite. We have a lot of joy and a lot of fun in our lives. People get irritated and they get in a hurry and they're trying to find a parking spot, they're trying to get to the mall, they're trying to do all their Christmas shopping. One of the things I used to joke with my children about around the Christmas season, I say, look, first of all, why are you expecting presents? After all, it's not your birthday. And so we all have a good laugh on that. But in the end, everybody seemed to get a lot of gifts, and we ended up spending a lot of money on Christmas. I remember growing up being taught the importance of Christmas and what this meant. I suppose I was about 5 or 6 years old when I first realized that there was no longer a Santa Claus. My brother and I had left some treats on the kitchen table for the elusive Santa Claus, hoping to find out whether or not he was really real or not. So what we did, we left a pack of gum on the table and a small note to Santa Claus. And the next morning, as we woke up, we ran to the kitchen table, and sure enough, Santa Claus had drawn out a sleigh and some reindeer and had left a little note for us. We were thrilled. Until later on during the day, I noticed that my dad was chewing gum, and I have never seen my dad chew gum ever. And I began to realize that he had taken the gum off the table, and we had deciphered the handwriting that was my dad's handwriting, that he indeed was posing as Santa Claus. At that point, I realized the jig is up and there is no Santa Claus. We had been hoodwinked into believing that Santa was bringing us presents for Christmas. After all, we didn't have a chimney, so how would Santa get into our house if he couldn't come down the chimney? Of course, my parents would rationalize and say that Santa actually came in a car. He delivered all the presents to all the good little boys and girls in his car. And so we'd rush outside on Christmas morning to see if there was any tracks in the snow made by a car. And sure enough, there would be tracks in the snow. We had later discovered that our dad had backed the car up and down the driveway a few times to make it look like someone had come into our driveway during the middle of the night. And so he could rationalize that Santa had brought us presents in the car, so he did not need to come down the chimney. As I think back in my childhood life of all the things that I was taught about Christmas and about the virgin birth and about the wise men and the moving star and all these wonderful things that we hear growing up in the church, as you become older, you begin to think about these things. Did these things really happen, or are they just imaginary things? We do not want to be lying to our children. For many of us, we have traditions. If you were brought up in the church or if you were born into Christianity, you didn't have a choice. You would naturally celebrate Christmas and the nativity scene every Christmas, and you'd go through the whole routine of the presents and the giving of gifts and receiving of gifts and all the family activities to go with that. Well, what do we do now that we no longer follow Christmas? What do we do if we are following God out of Christmas? Do we do nothing? Do we just abandon the whole thing and say, well, I guess there isn't anything I can do about Christmas since I don't believe in Christmas anymore? Do we just throw all that out? What do we do with our families? How do we relate to them? How do we share with them that we still love our families? We still want to give gifts and we want to enjoy the celebrations of the family feast and things like this. One of the things that I agreed with when I started a family, when I raised my 4 sons, was that I was never going to tell them about Santa Claus, that I was always going to explain to them what Christmas was from a Christian perspective, So therefore, my children grew up knowing that Santa Claus was fake from the time that they were 1 year old. I remember going to a store with my first son. He was probably 4 or 5 years old, and I had explained to him that Santa Claus is really the Antichrist. And so as we walked into the store, sure enough, there was Santa sitting over there on his throne, and my little son points over them and says in a loud voice, "Antichrist, Antichrist." I'm glad that he had paid attention to some of his training. We laugh about it now, but now when I am thinking about Christmas, all this has been set aside, and I am concentrating on what is true, what I have come to know in this last couple of years as I've made the decision to follow God out of Christianity and return to the teaching of the Torah. I know there are many of you in this group who are doing the same, and I salute you. I raise a glass to you, and I say, L'chaim, to life. I thank each and every one of you in this group who take the time to share with us and to comment with us and to make videos with us. I like to think of our group as a very personal group, a group where we can come together and share common ideas, and that we can learn together and grow together as we study the truth of the Holy Scriptures, the Hebrew Bible. I also want to raise a toast to the admins in this group, to Brady, to Yoshi, to my wife Leora, for all the work that they put into this group to help keep things running smoothly. It's not easy sometimes having to delete posts or to kick people out of the group. That is not our desire at all. We love each and every one of you who have found our group and who have gotten into our group in some way or another. We're glad that you are here. We want to learn from the rabbis who are also posting in our group, and we thank each and every one of you who share each week. So be encouraged. We are glad that you are here. This is the time of joy. This is a time of light. This is the time when we can share and we can continue to do good things for people. Just because we don't celebrate Christmas in the Christian way does not mean that we cannot celebrate. Every season has its celebrations, and this season is no different than that. Remember that there is light in this world, and the light is the light of the Torah. I'm so thankful for each and every one of you in this group, and that you've taken the time to share on a weekly basis, especially the rabbis who share in our group the information on Judaism. We are not a Jewish group, but we are a group of people who are following God out of Christianity and returning to the teaching of the Torah. And so I would raise a glass of cheer, and I salute you, and I thank each and every one of you in our group who have come to share with us. And as you follow God out of Christmas this year, maybe for the first time, I salute you, and you are not alone. We are with you, and we support you, and we thank each and every one of you in our group for sharing with us and for being a part of this wonderful group here on Facebook. I'm Jim Bush, and I'm following God out of Christmas. L'chaim.